Hey guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you a retro unboxing plus on-feet video of the Nike Mercurial Vapor 1. Now, as always guys, if you enjoy the retro unboxing series on my channel, it would be greatly appreciated if you could support this video with a like. Now, just to quickly touch on the box itself, the Mercurial Vapor 1 originally released in 2002, so this is the original box that it came in. I was lucky enough to snag a pair in my size in brand new condition. You can see that they are a size 9.5 US. This is listed as the Mercurial Vapor SG, SG standing for soft ground. The colorway is Cinder, White, and Varsity Maize. I believe this is one of 3 launch colors for this particular shoe. And like all the top-end models made by Nike at this point in time, these shoes are made in Italy. You don't see too many top-end models from Nike made in Italy anymore, which is a little bit of a shame, but that's just how it is. Now, because this is a soft ground model, they do include a couple of extras. One extra being the Nike Snap Stud Tool that's going to allow you to remove the metal stud tips on the soft ground studs themselves. So we'll get that out of the way. And of course, what would a Nike Mercurial Vapor be without the extra string bag? Now, the string bag with this pair, as you can see, is like a metallic silver color. Very, very cool. You got your Nike logo there in the middle. Then at the bottom it says NikeFootball.com. And for those of you guys that are wondering, the strings on the bag are black. So we'll get that out of the way, get the shoes out of the box. And to me, the Nike Mercurial Vapor 1 is probably the most significant and most important shoe that has been released in the last 15 years. And the reasons why is because this really changed how soccer shoes have progressed over the last 11 years since it was originally released in 2002. Up until 2002, if you were buying a high-end soccer shoe, most likely it was going to be made from kangaroo leather or some form of natural leather material. And the reason why that was is because it was viewed as the best. There were synthetic shoes prior to the Nike Mercurial Vapor 1. There were actually 2 Mercurial models prior to this shoe that were both synthetic. But up until this particular shoe, synthetics weren't viewed as a superior material to natural leather. And I would say that if you talk about the modern shoe market at this point in time, you're going to see more and more synthetics. And for the most part, I would say that synthetics are more popular than natural leather materials, both on a high-end as well as low-end level of soccer shoes. Now, what made this shoe so special at its time of release is that, one, it was the lightest shoe on the market at that point in time in 2002, which on its own was just very, very attractive. If you look back, going 11 years now, you had the Predator series was very, very popular. Obviously, the Copas were still popular. Diadora was a really big brand at the time. And all of those shoes, in comparison to a modern leather soccer shoe, weighed a lot more. You're probably looking at shoes in the 11, 12, 13 ounce range, whereas something like this weighs in at under the 7 ounce mark, I believe. I'm going to throw them on the scale a little bit later in the video, but they are just extremely light, especially in comparison to all the shoes that were available in 2002. The other point that really made this shoe kind of stand out is that it offered a feel unlike anything else that has ever been kind of introduced before or had ever been introduced before at the time of its release. Now, like I said, there were Mercurial models prior to the Mercurial Vapor 1, but it was more of a padded style synthetic, and to be completely honest, the quality wasn't all that great. And really it didn't catch on because who would buy a synthetic shoe that was trying to mimic the feel of leather if it just wasn't as good? But something like this, it's made out of a Nike Skin synthetic, not at all like the Nike Skin synthetic found on the current Hypervenom Phantom, more like the Tahitian synthetic found on the current Mercurials. It's a very thin single layer synthetic material. It's a one-piece upper, as you guys can see. The only seam that you're going to find on the shoe is going to be right here at the back of the heel counter, so everything is very hidden. It's a very smooth finish on the upper, and it did provide a very close barefoot feel and had a very tight fit overall. You can see how narrow it is cut through the midfoot, so it does have a very narrow kind of tight feel about it. That isn't for everybody, but if you were looking for something that was just completely different, very lightweight, and provided a very natural feel or barefoot feel on the ball, this is definitely something that you would have taken a look at back in 2002, and there really wasn't anything competing against this shoe at that point in time. And that's really why I would say that this is probably the most important shoe release in the last 15 years. It's just because it really did pave the way for all of the synthetic models that we see nowadays. And I think that without the release of this shoe, synthetics may not have caught on. And as you guys can see, even coming from this shoe, which I would by no means classify as a bad quality shoe in comparison to what we have now, but synthetics really have progressed from 2002 to 2013. Now we have Nike Skin on the Hypervenom. We have the current Tajin synthetic. Nike has Kangalite. There's so many amazing synthetics out there, and I think a lot of that can be attributed to the Nike Mercurial Vapor 1. Now, just to quickly touch on the colorway, like I mentioned, this is, I believe, one of the launch colors for the Mercurial Vapor 1. And when I bought it originally online, it's very difficult to find these in brand new condition, let alone in my size. So when I did find a pair, I really wasn't going to pass up on it. It was relatively expensive, to be completely honest with you guys, but I wasn't really happy with the colorway that it was in, mainly because the online photos just don't really do it justice. Online it kind of looks like a dull brown color, but in person it looks absolutely incredible. It's kind of like a really dark brown / dark gray. It's kind of difficult to explain what the color base is, but you can see that there's kind of like these gold flakes going throughout the entire upper. Shines in the light. You can see it a little bit better on the heel counter, and it just looks absolutely amazing in person, and I'm really happy I got this colorway. It's not one of the more popular colors of the Nike Mercurial Vapor 1. Obviously there are the bright orange ones that are very, very popular, and there's also a chrome one that's very popular, but those are extremely difficult to come by, and when you do find a pair, people are generally asking upwards of $500–600 for them. And that's not even necessarily in brand new condition. So overall, I have to say that I'm really happy with this colorway. It looks absolutely incredible in person. And overall, I just like the styling of the early versions of the Mercurial Vapor series. Very simple. You got these kind of smooth lines embossed into the upper that to me just make a very cool look. Make for a very cool look in the shoe. Then of course you have your white Nike swoosh here at the midfoot on both the inside and outside of the boot. Of course the Mercurial style has really remained the same over the last 11 years. Still has the central lacing system, still has the very low cut, still has the narrower fit in the midfoot. But what's cool about the really early Mercurials, and when I say early I mean Mercurial Vapor 1 and 2, is that they featured the external plastic heel counter, which I really like. Provides that little bit of extra protection and just makes for a very, very solid feel in the back of the shoe, really locking everything in place and preventing any kind of slippage. Of course, this does have that little bit of an extra flap here at the top, so you can fold it over, and you can see that it is yellow on the underside, which is pretty cool, but it's kind of difficult to get this flap to stay down simply because it is so short. And once you actually tie the laces, it's kind of difficult to keep it down just because the knot is too big. But it is cool that it is on there, and I wish they did put that on the current model Mercurials. As far as the heel liner goes, there's almost no padding here at all. It's very, very thin, and I'm not sure what kind of blisters these would kind of make for, but I would guess that these do require a little bit of break-in time. And hopefully you guys can see these little kind of dots here on the inside. They're kind of these grip texture dots, and you're going to find something like this or something similar to this on some of the Mercurial Vapor Superfly 2s and 3s. It's not these very large dots, it's actually very small dots, but you can see that this is kind of the original version of that, if you will. And the heel liner itself, there's minimal padding, and it has kind of this crosshatch kind of pattern on there. So overall, it just doesn't appear to be all that comfortable. As far as the insole goes, it is fully removable, as you guys can see. Features this kind of wavy pattern on there. You can see it says Mercurial Vapor at the heel, and it also says made in Italy in both French and English. The insole itself is just made from a very thin foam material. It's actually not too thin, it's thinner in certain areas. And then of course you have your pour-on inserts in the heel, forefoot, as well as at the big toe, making for a surprisingly comfortable fit with this particular shoe, as minimal and as lightweight as it is. Now moving on to the sole plate and stud pattern, the sole plate is actually made from a glass nylon material. Again, something similar to the current Hypervenom Phantom model. It's very, very responsive and rigid, and the shoe itself was designed after more of a sprinter's cleat, where it's supposed to be very tight fitting and very responsive, which is why they used a stiffer glass nylon material that allowed them to make a very low profile and very lightweight yet responsive sole plate on this shoe. You can see how thin it is, which is actually thinner than what you're going to find from most modern sole plates. As far as the soft ground stud pattern itself goes, this is somewhat unusual, and it was a stud pattern that was specific to the Mercurial Vapor series. It featured these snap-on studs. You can see there's these little clips here, and I'll actually try to remove one here on camera, and basically you would just snap them off. Give me a second here, it's kind of a little bit old. I don't want to break anything. It's slowly coming off. Hopefully I can get this off now. Nope. Look at, this is not going well. Okay, well basically you get the idea. It would snap off. It's kind of old and somewhat, I don't even want to say that it's rusted. It's just kind of oxidized on the inside here, and it doesn't really want to come apart. There's like all kinds of dust on me right now. But basically these studs would snap off and you could replace the tips, but the tips I guess would wear off pretty easily. It seems to be a pretty soft metal material. I'm not sure exactly what it's made from. But that was the concept here, and it's kind of an unusual soft ground stud pattern. You do have your 6 studs within it, which in itself is not really that uncommon, but you can see that the layout of the studs and just the shape of the soft ground studs, they're kind of like these triangle shapes, and it's just very unusual, and you can see that they are extremely long and very, very aggressive. So in terms of the type of traction they would provide on soft ground, I would anticipate these being pretty good. You can see on the bottom, it does even have the original sticker here. It says, "Clean with water only. Do not use sharp objects," which I think seems to be pretty obvious. You wouldn't do that to clean your shoes anyways. So that's pretty much it as far as the unboxing portion of this video, naming all the technical specifications. I'm going to move on now to a quick weigh-in so you can get a better idea as to how lightweight these guys are. One of the features that made this shoe so popular at the time of its release is that it was so much lighter than anything else out there on the market. And even by today's standards, the Mercurial Vapor 1 is still very, very lightweight, especially in the soft ground stud variation in comparison to other soft ground models. So I'm going to throw this on the scale for you. Keep in mind this is a brand new pair in a size 9.5 US. Throw it on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 6.9 ounces, which is pretty much right on par with the current model Mercurial Vapor 9, which is pretty impressive considering that this shoe is now 11 years old. And it just goes to show that you can make a shoe very, very lightweight, but at the same time you want to have that solid feel about it. And I think that's what's really made the Mercurial Vapor such a popular line of soccer shoes performance-wise, is that they offer that lightweight feel, but at the same time they feel very solid. So that's pretty much it as far as the weigh-in portion of this video. And move on to a quick on feet so you can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit and what the sizing is like. Alright, here's a look at the Mercurial Vapor 1s on feet. And first off, it must be said that these are absolutely incredible looking shoes. I love the simplicity of the early Mercurial Vapors, and it's just something that you don't see all that much anymore in terms of styling. Everybody's looking for flashy and fancy designs, whereas this is somewhat flashy, but for the most part is very, very simple, which is something that I really like the look of. As far as the overall fit and feel of the shoe, they are very narrow cut, as you would expect from a Mercurial Vapor. I would say that these are slightly more narrow in the midfoot than a modern Mercurial Vapor, but in terms of the fit in the toe box and forefoot, these are perhaps a little bit wider. The synthetic feels pretty good, even though it is 11 years old. Like I said, this still feels like a very wearable shoe, even by today's standards. In terms of sizing, I'm wearing a size 9.5 US, where I would normally wear a size 9 in current model Mercurial Vapors. And I would say for the most part, I can get away with wearing the 9.5. My toe is pretty much right at the end, but I definitely could wear a 9 as well. So if you can find these, they do fit true to size, although you can safely go up a half size as well and still have a comfortable and proper fit. As far as the heel goes, like I mentioned, there isn't much padding there, and for the most part, it feels relatively uncomfortable simply because it's almost like your heel is sitting directly against plastic with these little rubber grips there. So I would imagine that these would cause some pretty decent blisters, but for the most part, they just feel pretty good, and I'm surprised that a shoe that is 11 years old still feels this high quality in comparison to a modern soccer shoe. So that's pretty much it as far as the on-feet portion of this video, and I'll leave you to my final thoughts. Alright guys, that's it for my retro unboxing of the Nike Mercurial Vapor 1. It's hard to believe that the Mercurial Vapor 1 is 11 years old now, simply because of how popular the Mercurial series has become. But like I mentioned, this is probably the most significant soccer shoe release in the last 15 years, and it really did pave the way for how soccer shoes are designed in modern day 2013. So that's pretty much it guys. If you have any questions, be sure to leave a comment down below. And also, if you have any suggestions for other retro unboxings you would like to see me do that I haven't done already, be sure to leave a comment as well. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to support it with a to like. I will leave some annotations on screen to other retro unboxings that I have done, so be sure to go ahead and check those out if any of them are interesting to you. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media information down below in the description. Other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.